All right, simplifying radicals, day 2, a little harder now. So hopefully you remember how to do the square roots. So the square root of 9 would be 3, the square root of 18 would be 3 times the square root of 2, the 3's would cancel. Mr. Outby, what were you saying? Okay, let's do it this way. We can write the division, like we show up here, this way, breaking it into 2, or we can have the 2 written as 1. So right now I have the square root over the square root, and then I rewrite it as just one big square root. The 9 and the 18 fraction, 1/2. Now I can split that back apart, square root of 1 over the square root of 2. Now here's the simplifying part with radicals. You cannot leave a radical, the square root, in the bottom. So kind of like common denominators, when you figure out what you're going to multiply by, you go top and bottom, same number. So to get the square root of 2 to not be a square root anymore, I multiply by itself. So the square root of 2 times square root of 2, what we do in the bottom, we have to do in the top. Because this right here is 1. Okay, we're renaming it. Okay, anyways, moving on. So when I do that, I get the square root of 2 over 2, because the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is a lot of steps in between here, but it's 2. All right, looking over here, square root of 100, 10, square root of 121, 11, done. Simple. 3, a little bit more complex now. Now, when I first did this, I just wrote the 8 over 2 as 4. But then when I got down here, and it was like 4 over 2, and some people might have been confused. So I left it 4 over 1. Okay, so 8 over 2, that simplifies to 4 over 1. Square root of 2, square root of 8, write that as 2/8, which is 1/4. Now I split that back apart again. I know the square root of 4 is 2. And I have the 4, square root of 1 is 1, so 4 times 1 is 1, or 4, excuse me. We get 4 over 2, and that's 2. All right, next one, number 4. I'm going to multiply the 3 and the 5, 15, the 4 and the 2, 8, and it's all still under the square root. The first time I did this, I just multiplied by the square root of 8 right away. And I'm like, well, that's not going to work. It's going to be a little more confusing, more steps, blah, blah, blah. So what I did is said, all right, so let's take a look at the square root of 8. And inside the square root of 8 is 4 times 2. So I can pull the square root of, I can do the square root of 4 part, pull the 2 out. So it's 2 times the square root of 2. Square root of 8 is 2 times the square root of 2. So now when I multiply here by 1, the square root of 2 over square root of 2, it's a little easier, the numbers are smaller. So anyway, square root of 2 times square root of 2 is 2, and 2 times 2 is 4. So square root of 15, square root of 2 gives you square root of 30. And here, when I multiply this and simplify it, I get 4, so it's square root of 30 over 4. 30 is 2 times 3 times 5. I can't do a square root, I can't simplify square root of 30, so it just stays square root of 30 over 4. All right, number 5. So break them off into their parts. I do the square root of a squared, so I pull the a out, b squared, pull the b out. I have the square root of 3 over square root of 10. Multiply top and bottom by the square root of 10. So that gets rid of the square root on the bottom. So I'll have the square root of 30 over, and then square root of 10 times square root of 10 is 10. That's the whole point of me doing that. So I get 10. And then, just like I showed up here, square root of 30 is square root of 30. Can't do anything with it, and that's it. All right, number 6. Square root of 100 is 10. Square root of a to the 4th is a squared. Square root of 144 is 12. Square root of b to the 4th is b squared. 10/12 though can be written as 5/6. So it's 5a squared 6 b to the 2nd, b squared. Now, before I do 7 and 8, problem 7 and 8, I'm not going to test or quiz you on it. Don't just say, oh, I'm going to quit listening. No, it's only a 5-minute video. Watch it 3 times. Anyways, with this is how you simplify them, okay? And I get, normally we have you in class, and I get to look at you and read your facial expressions, or you get to ask questions, and so forth. So here it is, how you do it. First of all, the square root of 4 is 2. So think of that as just 2 right here. Now, up here, when I multiplied by the square root of 10, I did that so I got rid of the square roots. Okay, here I have 3 minus the square root of 5. Well, how do I get rid of this square root? To do that, I can't just multiply by the square root of 5, because then I would have 3 times the square root of 5. So I have to multiply by something, and so it eliminates those middle terms. And if you remember back in chapter 6 when we did a bunch of these, minus and plus, it's the same thing, but minus and plus, the middle term will cancel out, and it'll just be the first term squared, second term squared. So 2 times 3 is 6, and then 2 times the square root of 5 is 2 to the square root of 5. 3 times 3 is 9. Remember, those middle terms will cancel out, and then square root of 5 times square root of 5 is 5. The minus and the plus will be minus. Okay, so that'll be minus 5. So 6 plus 2, the square root of 5 on top, and 9 minus 5 is 4 on the bottom. If you left this as your final answer, that's fine. But 2 goes into all 3 of these. So it'll be 3, 2 goes into 1, so it'll be just square root of 5 and 2. Some people don't understand this connection, and I get that, and I'm not going to take a bunch of time to explain it. So if you have this, I will accept it, but this is the actual final correct answer. Number 8, same thing. I need to figure out, what am I going to multiply by? Okay, so I'm going to multiply this same thing, this exact same thing, except the sign is going to be different. Okay, here it was minus, so I multiplied with pluses. Here it's a plus, so I'm going to multiply with minuses. Square root of 5 times 5 is 5 to the square root of 5. Square root of 5 times square root of 5 is 5, or square root of 25, which will be 5. And again, that's minus. And then 5 times 5 is 25, and the middle terms cancel out, and square root of 5 times square root of 5 again is going to be 5. And square root of 25, 5. So I have 5 to the square root of 5 minus 5 over 25 minus 5, which is 20. 5 goes into all 3 of, you could have that as your answer, or 5 goes into all 3, 1, so you get square root of 5 minus 1 over 4, because 5 goes in 24. Again, you can leave this as your answer, but this is the final answer if you remember how to reduce. And it can, when you're in a situation like this, because of the plus or minus in here, it has to be common to all 3 parts. Okay, 1, 2, 3. It has to be common to all 3 parts to be able to reduce by a common factor. All right, now I know this is confusing. Okay, I could go through it all again, but I'm not, because you can just play it again. Okay, so just like a TikTok, sometimes it takes you a couple times before you get it memorized and figure it out. You might have to watch this a couple times before you can figure it out to do your assignment. Your assignment is page 12. I'll write that on here. Page 12, and you are going to do the evens. And when you get to the bottom, number 14 and number 16 are the 2 that are like 7 and 8. Okay? But you better know how to do 2 through 12 evens. Anyways. So, simplifying radical expressions. Good luck.